Bitcoin's a digital commodity. That gives it an ethical advantage, a political advantage. It gives it an ideological advantage. Cynthia Lummis standing up, putting forth a bill for the U.S. to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. BlackRock is the most influential money manager in the world. They have $11 trillion of assets. The guy there used to be against Bitcoin. He called it an index of money laundering in 2018. He's the single most influential person in Wall Street. This is what he said a few months ago.
Now, I know you have been a leader in willing to embrace crypto. You have made it so that people can be in Bitcoin. We hear that you are thinking about Ethereum. These are incredible things. Now, BlackRock is not known as a gunslinger by any means. So you obviously must believe that this maybe is an alternative. Is this an alternative in order to be able, because of a deficit, maybe something long-term people should have?
Absolutely. As you know, I was a skeptic.
Yes.
I was a proud skeptic. And I studied it, learned about it, and I came away saying, okay, my opinion 5 years ago was wrong. Here's my opinion today. This is what I believe in today. I believe the opportunity today. I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. I'm not trying to say there's not misuses like everything else, but it is a legitimate financial instrument that allows you to have maybe uncorrelated, non-correlated type of returns. I believe it is an instrument that you invest in when you're more frightened, though. Right. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, debasing their currency by excess deficits, and some countries are. I believe we have countries where you're frightened of your everyday existence, and if you have an opportunity to invest in something that is outside your country's control, then you can have more financial control. And so I'm a major believer that there is a role for Bitcoin in portfolios. I believe you're going to see that as one of the asset classes that we all look at. I look at it as digital gold, as I said before, and I do believe there's a real need for everyone to look at it as one alternative to, I would say, the optimism that I have in the world. If you want to hedge hope, Bitcoin is not an instrument for hope unless you're hopeful you're going to make a lot of money on it. But I look at it as a vehicle in which you're expressing your financial acumen in something that you're more frightened of the world, you're more frightened of your existence. And I believe there's a great industrial use for it. And I think a lot of people are missing that.
I couldn't agree more. I changed my mind about it when you did. You had been my thinking. It was like, you don't believe in it, so I can't believe it. I want to thank Larry Fink for the message of optimism.
Thanks.
And also for a great quarter. Larry Fink is the co-founder, chairman, and CEO of BlackRock, I think the most important investment company in the world.
Thanks, guys. Carl.
That's Wall Street flipping. And here...
Never sell your Bitcoin, right?
That's Donald Trump giving you some good advice. By the way, he stood up on stage and said the U.S. would not sell Bitcoin if he's president. The only things the U.S. won't sell are their national parks and their nuclear stockpiles and their Bitcoin. They would sell everything else. They'll sell your Google stock, your Nvidia stock, your real estate, your bond portfolio, your art collection, your collectibles collection, your sports team, etc. That's a very profound statement. You might go past too fast, but just think about the guy.
Never sell your Bitcoin, right?
President of the United States telling you that. This is Senator Lummis.
I encourage people to buy and hold. I encourage them to say Bitcoin for their retirement, for their future. And that's because as the Congress spends trillions and trillions of dollars and is flooding our economy and the world economy with US dollars, there's no way that we cannot debase the value of the US dollars.
There's no way she could stand up there in front of the Capitol and say, I encourage you to buy Apple stock. or Magnificent Seven or NVIDIA, right? She might be able to say, I encourage you to buy gold. She could tell you you should buy a house. She could tell you should have a chicken in every pot, right? She can tell you need electricity. These are commodities, right? The fact that Bitcoin is a digital commodity means a governor, a senator, a president, anyone can advocate for this in an egalitarian, utilitarian fashion without a conflict of interest. It's a very, very important nuance here. The entire mood in the market is really switching, and you can see it here in this exchange with Joe Kernan and Mohammed El-Arian, who is probably the most well-spoken, well-respected modern economist.
There's a lot of people that are nodding with you because we can deflate our way out of some of the step, but the difference between 2% and 3% compounded for the dollar is devastating. And I don't know, for you to just blow it off is a little weird. I mean, there's a reason they want 2%. Anyone can move goalposts. I mean, if you compound 3%, that's 50% higher than 2%.
Do you know where 2% comes from?
No, but
2%
3% it would be would make all of us feel awful in 10 years.
2% comes from the Bank of New Zealand in the early 90s.
It seems like a good number to me.
But it's an arbitrary number. What you've got to take into...
Well, 5 is an arbitrary number. If you want to deflate 36 trillion, let's go to 10 then.
I don't want to pull the rug from under U.S. economic exceptionalism. I think we are outpacing the rest of the world.
You're starting to at 3%.
I think we are investing in the economies of tomorrow, in the growth drivers of tomorrow.
The government?
No, the private sector, everything else. If you push this economy into recession...
The private sector is not what causes the inflation.
Joe, if you push this economy into recession, you will not just lose current standard of living, you will lose future standard of living. We are in a very good position.
3% loses the future standard of living. That's the problem.
2.5 to 3 is what I said. You went immediately to 3.
Well, if you say 3 at the high end,
and as long as inflation,
okay with it.
As long as inflation expectations are stable, you can navigate.
You better buy some Bitcoin, Mohammed.
It gives you a sense that Bitcoin has creeped into the dialogue everywhere in the world. So we're year one of the crypto renaissance. This is what you can expect in 2025. You're going to have improvements to the ETFs. You're going to have fair value accounting. You're going to have a pro-Bitcoin cabinet, the repeal of SAB 121, and into the war on crypto, a digital assets framework of some sort, and a bunch of Bitcoin standard companies leaping out of the woodwork. MicroStrategy is an example of one of those companies. We're powered by digital capital. So what do? We just buy Bitcoin. This is the last 4 years. We started with $250 million buy. Then we bought it about 48 more times. After we bought 250 million, then we bought 2 billion. Now we're up to about 28 billion. So we put billions of dollars into Bitcoin. I guess it's worth about $45 billion right now. This is a company that had 450 million of free cash, and we converted into $45 billion of assets going up 60% a year in 48 months. In essence, what we're doing is we're securitizing the Bitcoin. We sell fixed income instruments. We sell bonds backed by Bitcoin. We take the money, we buy Bitcoin. We sell equity backed by Bitcoin. We buy more Bitcoin. The bonds make the equity outperform Bitcoin and make us more volatile. The options traders like to trade the stock. That creates demand for it. And in essence, we're just siphoning that capital into the Bitcoin ecosystem. In the fourth quarter, we raised $18 billion, $15 billion of equity. Basically just $15 billion of equity, $3 billion in a convertible bond. The bond we sold to arbitrageurs who wanted to trade the volatility. So we borrowed $3 billion at 0% interest for 5 years, and we bought Bitcoin. So we're borrowing $3 billion, investing it at 60% a year for free for 5 years, right? It's a good business. If you can get it, I highly recommend you do it. It's not unlike an oil refinery. We're like a Bitcoin refinery. You know, you take crude oil, and then you spit out kerosene and gasoline or asphalt. If you want asphalt, you don't want kerosene. And you can't pour crude oil on the highway, right? So we're literally using our operation to create various flavors of Bitcoin-backed securities. How does that do for us? Well, over 4 years, Bitcoin is up 60%, which is doubling the Mag 7, and we're just slightly less than double Bitcoin. So we've returned 110% a year every year for 4 years. That makes us the best performing stock in the entire S&P 500 universe by a large amount. Thank you. Here's my chart. NVIDIA, everybody knows about. They're up about 1,000%, 1,100% over that time period, and we've doubled them. Now, here's the most important thing I'm going to say today. I don't think you can beat NVIDIA, and I don't think you have the wherewithal to compete against NVIDIA creating AI chips. But every one of you can copy us, right? It's a very simple playbook. Anybody can copy us. Any company, a private company, a public company, an individual, a family. That's why I'm on stage. I wouldn't waste my time coming out to brag about making a lot of money with some esoteric proprietary technology that you can't access. I'm not even here to pitch MicroStrategy stock. I'm actually here to pitch Bitcoin. What I'm saying is Bitcoin is the most important thing of the century. It is digital energy. It is digital capital. It is as profound as electricity 100 years ago. It is profound as, as gunpowder, right, was, or steel, or fire. If you figure it out, you can do some good for your community, your family, your company, your country. MicroStrategy happens to be more volatile than every company in the S&P 500. Okay, conventional wisdom they teach you at Harvard B School is volatility is a bug. And the problem with that is everybody strips the volatility off the balance sheet, and they strip it off the P&L, and their companies become very uninteresting. Their stocks die, their options markets die. There's nothing wrong with volatility as long as you have a lot of capital. So, for example, Bernard Arnault has $200 billion of stock, and people write stories about how he lost $20 billion last week, or he made $40 billion. Or how about Elon Musk? He made $100 billion in a month. That's volatility. Okay, you want that volatility to go away? Give away all your stuff, and you will have no volatility. Right? People that own nothing have no volatility. When you're dead, you have no volatility. Right? When someone tells you volatility is bad, and therefore you should give them all of your wealth, right? They're playing you. There's nothing wrong with having very valuable stuff that goes up and down from time to time. So MicroStrategy harnesses that volatility. we actually structured the business to create it. And the volatility actually creates the options market. So if you look up here, we have one of the 10 biggest options markets in the entire stock market. And our stock trades in the top 10 in terms of equity too. And that would be impressive for a small company. But if you look at the right side where you compare our options open interest to the market cap, what you see is that we have the highest open interest on a market cap basis in the world. And you see the same thing with regard to liquidity, at least out of S&P 500 companies. It's hot money, right? I want you to think about, I take 10 tons, I make it a sculpture in your backyard. Well, when you take $10 billion and buy bonds with it, it's like a sculpture in your backyard. It's a paperweight. When I take the $10 billion and I put it in Bitcoin, it's like fashioning it into a flywheel and spinning at 60 RPM. And when you're spinning 10 tons, 60 RPM, you think about it, that's a turbine. There's a lot of energy in that. You can power a city with that. And so thinking that volatility is bad is like thinking kinetic energy is a nuisance.